Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to cilinixfxcapital and welcome to this new video on the crypto markets, on Bitcoin specifically, after yet another bearish APAC session, Asia Pacific session. We're going to do a full update. We've had some more bearish pressure. There's also some bullish divergences we'll talk about. So in general, we'll do a full update on the current situation. I mean, ultimately yesterday, when I did my middle of the day market update, I said, okay, there's still a good chance that we can reclaim the range, right? And when I'm talking about the range, I'm talking about the balance that Bitcoin had from the 10th of October, right? So that's the balance right here between 107.5 thousand and 114,000. And yesterday the price was just trading below that. And we had some nice liquidation candles, or these nice liquidation candles. Of course, there's no nice liquidation candles. But good liquidation candles when it comes to forming a bottom, but ultimately we push down lower. And the key reason for that is, and this is the indirect reason, of course, but ultimately what we saw over the course of today and what is still going on right now is equities sliding, all right? You can see the volatility index opened much higher. The dollar strength index is actually fine. I mean, it's still rallying up right here, but it's at the same levels as yesterday, so that's not the problem. But risky assets, and then we're talking about the Russell 2000, which is obviously high risk. But we're also talking about equities. We're talking about the Nasdaq, etc. They're falling, and they're falling quite aggressively right now. And that is also pushing down Bitcoin. Now, I have to say, when we're talking about, how much the S&P 500 fell since last week Wednesday, and then how much Bitcoin fell since then, and then now how much the S&P 500 has fallen this morning, and how much Bitcoin has fallen, I'd have to say that Bitcoin is actually holding its ground relatively well. But obviously, since yesterday, it's a pretty major bearish development. Now, I'm not sure if this is the time to talk about the underlying fundamentals causing this. I mean, there's several things that have to do with liquidity, but also just in general the money markets, I suppose, in the United States that seem to be breaking, or at least there's something abnormal going on there. And that is, I think, what's causing the volatility index to increase this much without any, major news coming out, to be fair. It's very much in the underlying statistics, and that's quite difficult. So maybe I'll make a video on that this afternoon, going in depth about that a little bit more, because I do need time to talk about that. For now, I think what you have to know is that the fundamental situation underlying the fundamental markets has, at least in the perception of major investors, has worsened, right? So that's pushing down equities, and that is in turn pushing down Bitcoin. Therefore, I think the fundamental situation has worsened, and that in combination with the technicals. I mean, ultimately, what I told you yesterday is that until we actually manage to reclaim 107.4, it's best to have a bearish bias, and that's still what I'm going to say right now. I think we have a possibility to reclaim 107,000 and 107.4, which is what we need to do if we want to gain stability soon. But I think it's more likely, given the current situation, unless we get some sort of fundamental relief, right? So it's good to keep your eyes on that data. It's good to keep your eyes on the fundamentals, equities. If we see some recovery in that, that's great news. Then we can reclaim 107.4. We can do something like this. But unless, until that happens, I think it's better to assume we're going to drop down lower. And then the key support level where I'm looking at is this level right here between the yearly rolling VWAP at 98,500 and the weekly trend at 101,000. So I'd have to say that's a little bit more likely right now. So that is my prediction, given the current news and given the current fundamentals. But honestly, myself, I'm still relatively fluid in my bias, and I will remain focused, and I'll remain ready for both scenarios. And that is what I'll keep you updated on as well. Like I said, some minor bullish divergences as well. If you take a look at the volume is decreasing with this push down, and the RSI is also making higher lows right here. So maybe that matters a little bit. I doubt it. Look, there's bearish divergences in every uptrend, and there's bullish divergences in every downtrend, right? So ultimately, fundamentals matter more, and that is something I'll keep you updated on. But that is what I think you need to know for now. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care, definitely in these markets, and bye.